This is Amy with Creative Catapult Coaching.
And Megan with Focus Like a Mother, and I'll add Change HP in there now.
All
And this
right.
is the Ctrl Alt Think podcast, Conversations with Neurodivergent Minds.
And I was going to attempt to do something humorous, and my brain is having its own thought divergence. But we are sort of on the topic of doing things. And for years, I've been on a kick of saying when somebody says, I just need to do the thing, going, that's a danger signal.
Hmm.
And you
But I
hadn't
just
heard
need
this one
to.
before, but I just need to. You hadn't heard my speech on this one before, but so I just shared it of you, and I'm curious what your thoughts were.
Well, let's all hear your speech, and then you can hear my thoughts.
All right, sounds fair. So in coaching for years, there'll be something somebody's been trying to do, and it's sounds like it's a simple task. I need to sit down and pay bills. I just need to do it. 3 weeks later, we're still at, I just need to do it. Okay, so I'm noticing a pattern here of it's not getting done. And over time, it's become very apparent with a number of people I've heard this with. This is a sign the thing won't get done if somebody just needs to do it. Um,
Hmm.
you think you should be able to force yourself into doing it or sit down and do it. And I can almost guarantee you, A, you won't do it. B, there's a blocker that you haven't identified. Either you don't want to do it, there isn't time, you don't know what the steps are, but inevitably you need to give it some more thought, and that's meant with the kindest possible intent at somebody. But I've seen this and I do it myself. When I catch myself saying, I just need to, I usually try and remember, okay, this means it needs a lot more thought because I just need to so rarely actually makes the thing happen.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's probably been other stuff in that speech over the years, but that's today's version.
Yeah, when we first started working together, and you were coaching me, I think one of my I just need tos was my monthly um totaling up my books and stuff for the month, right? I just need to sit down and do my accounting for the month. I just need to.
Yeah.
Or I just need to reply to that email. I've got a lot of those. I just need to reply to that email, but I haven't yet.
What did you do about the accounting, or how did we proceed with it?
I've tried a lot of different things. We tried scheduling it and tried different things. Once I start it, it's not so bad. So I think time blocking worked to be able to have the time to actually sit and do it all in one go. The other one that I came up with for some of those was like recipe cards or little checklist instructions because it's something that I do. I'm actually probably going to create one for processing our podcast and then loading it because I'm not doing a bunch of them at once. I'm doing one at a time. And there are specific steps in the software I have to take, and I
Right.
can't remember the steps. And so then it's like, I just need to um, put our podcast up for the next week. But if I create like a little recipe card or a checklist, that takes the barrier of trying to remember the steps, or it just makes it easy. Um, and then the just need to sort of goes away. It just happens.
It sounds like, yeah, in your case, you identified what the blocker was, and they're, at least with the podcast, some pretty straightforward. And even with the accounting, once you sorted out the accounting and that it was the time that needed to be allocated specifically for that, that really,
Yeah.
really helped. I can't remember if I will often let people, nobody likes to be told what to do. So I think my strategy for coaching with it usually has been kind of ask people, some very general questions about how they intend to proceed with it. But then flag goes off in my mind. Sometimes people have figured out what they need to do, but for the most part, it usually takes several weeks. I found of like trying different pieces before, I just need to, isn't a frustration point.
Yeah, I think there's always kind of, or most of the time, kind of some experimentation of, well, what if I, like with my accounting stuff, well, what if I try this month? Did that work or not? Or did I wait and do it a week later or 2 weeks later or whatever it was? Um, it also depends on if there's like an external deadline or an internal deadline, kind of with our deadlines topic from before. But I think it's the experimentation and then the accountability piece that's the benefit for coaching through those I just need to moments. Um, because what you think might work may not work month over month or time over time if it's an I just need to that keeps coming up. Um, so
Yeah. And I think what's been interesting is that how many of the things that people say, I just need to really sound objectively simple. I need to reply to an email. I need to make the doctor's appointment. And,
Mhm.
things that sound like you should just, should just be able to open the computer, pick up the phone, and spend the 30 seconds on it or whatever, 5 minutes on an email, write the reply and hit send. And, for how many years or how many coaching sessions did it take before I really caught the pattern for myself and for others of I just need to kind of often sets up a signal that there's something deeper going on. There's something in the way that's keeping a person from executing. And
Mhm.
I just need to, I think, especially in the neurodivergent world and probably other worlds as well, should almost just be flagged as there's something in your way,
Mhm.
and that should just, how many points would that, keep people from banging their head against a wall? I just need to
Mhm.
do the thing. It should take me 3 minutes. Well, you've been sitting here looking at it for 3 hours. Me sending an invoice this weekend. Um, it should be simple. And it turned out it was a whole bunch of emotional stuff. I kind of knew that, but I've been working on stuff around this for a long time. And, it's still, and literally once I'd cleared, for me, it was the emotional associations with it. It took me literally 30 seconds. So it was a matter of I just need to, and
Mhm.
the action clicked into place. It wasn't even complicated stuff, but the emotional barrier from past stuff and the implications, depending on which way things went, definitely created a whole bunch of I can't.
Mhm. And I think one of mine is definitely a neurodivergent brain thing, but sometimes it's the perception of a demand, whether I'm aware of that perception or not. Um, but I just need to sometimes feels like I just have to, which then sometimes my brain is going, oh, I have to, so now I can't. And I think that's a very neurodivergent experience of it could be the most simple thing ever, but my brain has taken in lots of additional information and contexts. And so, like, one of the ones we worked on together was me sending um, someone an email. It was weird. It was me sending someone an invoice, but I also felt like I owed them an email on a totally different topic. So I felt like I couldn't send this invoice because my brain said I owed them this. And so there was a demand stacking on the
Well, yeah,
invoice. And they're
I-
like, yeah, my brain had them connected and they're not connected. At the time, they were not connected at all, but I couldn't do either thing because it was like um, when you create a formula loop in Excel and the formulas can't solve themselves, my
but
brain was
yeah,
like, I have to do both of these things, but I can't resolve this function right now.
Right. Well, and in my original coach training, they would have referred to those as collapsed issues.
Okay.
That things that are intertwined and, you're real there for you, you were dealing with two different issues
Hmm.
factually, even though emotionally they were tied together by the obligation to operate on both pieces.
Yep. And I think I remembered your witty thought. So I'll ask you a question and see where it goes. But
Okay.
so Amy, why can't we just do it?
Because you just put a demand on me. And so now my brain is not going to answer anything at all. I don't.
So before our call, Amy was talking about we're not Nike. We can't just do it.
Oh, right. Yes. And
See,
my brain for a few
there's
days.
that demand.
Yeah, but well, and or my short-term memory, and I've just been having some weird brain stuff due to stress for the last couple weeks, and I'm so many reasons my brain could be doing whatever it's doing. Brains are complicated.
They are.
And
And they carry around their own baggage, which is a little frustrating sometimes. Uh,
well, and sometimes too, needing to realize that, despite our best intentions and our all the support and all the things that, it's not an issue we can solve. I read a whole book on epilepsy, seizures. It was kind of one of these medical case study books. It was called Brainstorm, which is why I picked it up. I knew it was nonfiction. I didn't really know what it was, but I'm like, oh, that
mm,
sounds interesting. And it was just all of these case studies about, people's brains doing wrong things,
mm,
electrical misfirings, and all the things people had done to try and, support themselves or support their brain. And it's like the things they couldn't actually get to the root of the problem because their brain had, tumors or lesions. You can't support your way out of a brain tumor
hmm
for the most part. You can't fix the root cause. And so sometimes that I just need to, there might be a reason that we can't work around by ourselves. I mean, I can speak from having had brain tumors. And I know a lot of stuff to support myself, but it reached a point where even my supports weren't working. And of course, by that point, there were a bunch of other signs too. And it's like, I think something's wrong. I don't think
mm,
it's just me doing wrong, which
mm.
is too with the neurodivergence and a really interesting thing of like, we don't want to be a burden. So we'll keep trying. I just need to try harder. I just need to try again. I just need to not be a bother to the people because we already know that a lot of times the way our brains work make it a lot more demanding when the environment isn't set up. And so we need more help or different directions or things to be done differently. And most of us don't like that. We know that we're
Mm.
asking for a lot, and sometimes we get awfully self-conscious about it.
Interesting. As you were talking through brains, um, a lot of the things, so you read the book Brainstorm. I have, uh-oh, your camera disappeared.
Yeah, that's because I'm coughing. Well,
Okay.
I would pick up the mic, but that
You
didn't
read the
happen.
book Brainstorm, and as you were talking through brains and all the things that brains do, I have done a lot of reading about the concept and the transition period called matrescence, which is similar to how everyone goes through adolescence as a teenager, and your brain is rewiring and changing and maturing. Um, Parents, especially mothers, go through a process called matrescence. So matrescence is the both physical and cognitive journey, and transformation that happens during pregnancy and postpartum. But as you were talking about support's not working anymore, or being hard on yourself, or if I just work harder, it'll I'll find a way. So you were talking from one perspective, but I could also see that really relate to a lot of moms that your brain physically changed when you got pregnant and had a child. And some of the supports that you used before don't work anymore. You may not know of different supports to try. And there's a lot of guilt and comparing yourself to others. And, oh, I'll just try harder. And why am I not doing good enough when your brain has actually changed?
I
So it's
just,
just interesting as like
I
I was
just,
just seeing it from the mom perspective of, oh, I can definitely relate to that because the whole brain through a blender thing is like, oh, now all the things I did before don't work anymore.
but I just need to.
But I just need to. Why can't I? I just need to.
Nike says just do it. I just need to.
Yeah.
You know what? Sometimes it doesn't work anymore. And that's a hard thing to come to terms with sometimes. I mean, and sometimes it's as simple as change your environment, work with a coach. Sometimes it's going to antidepressants. Sometimes it's change what you're eating. But there's a point where sometimes, especially us neurodivergent folks, and I've also read people pleasers, and that we try beyond what is the scope of what a lot of the population might, and sometimes it's to our detriment. Sometimes we need to learn that we need to stop trying.
Did I hear it's okay to ask for help?
Yep, that's one way. Or sometimes it's like, is this thing really worth our time or energy anymore?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially as and we're just over 15 minutes, so we'll get close to the end, but especially right now, we're getting close to the end of the year on this specific, whatever. We're recording
Calendar.
at the end of October, so this will be posted in November. So there are going to be a lot of demands. We're going into a really busy season. There's going to be a lot of I just need tos. But I think we really need to ask ourselves, do I just need to? And what's the consequence? What happens if I don't? What can I do? What's realistic?
Those are all great questions. And yeah, it's ended up getting more philosophical than I think I was envisioning. But yeah, the I just need to has been one of my, I've wanted to record on this phrase for years, and it's just never worked out. And funny that the first time I brought it up with you today, we ran with it. But um, yeah, there's an interesting point where I just need to indicate that there's something that's not working.
Mm.
And there might be a way around it. And sometimes admitting that, yeah, um, support might be a way, but do you just need to?
Mm-hmm. Well, with that, what else do we need to cover before we wrap up?
I don't need to just do my books. I need to just give them to somebody else, my bookkeeping. I'm hiring a bookkeeper because I'm realizing I don't have the capacity and the energy to do all the things. And it's becoming more apparent that I can't just do it.
Mm-hmm. I've actually delegated some things to my husband that he would rather I do, like um contacting the similar like books, taxes, other questions that it's like I don't have the capacity to worry about that at the moment. And I have also said no to a lot of things recently where um it's October while we're recording this, and a lot of people were doing like trunk or treats for businesses, like bring your business, come out and do a trunk or treat. So I did one, and I was asked to do some other ones, and I actually said no because I just really didn't have like, oh, I just need to do some more trunk or treats or some more marketing events. Nope, I don't have the capacity right now. So I'm not going to be able to do those things. And just processing through it and being okay with that and coming to terms with it.
Yeah. And it's like put it like that, and it sounds so final. And you can always reevaluate these decisions. I think we forget that too, that, just because we don't do something now doesn't mean it's forever.
Yep.
But, and like you said, delegating responsibility to others can be useful. I wish I'd written down the name. I watched a YouTube video about a deck of cards that a couple was using. He was autistic, she was ADHD, and they were using it to divide household tasks in a way that so that people were doing things that catered to their strengths and preferences, but also it just brought up stuff and led to a lot of interesting conversations for them for how to balance it so that nobody felt unduly put upon because how do you deal with it when neither person has the capacity to do some of the stuff? Things like the garbage going out somehow still probably needs to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so delegating is useful. And I think doing it in a way that all parties feel it's done fairly. And then we're getting into marriage and therapy counseling stuff. It's a little beyond the scope of our conversations, but we're human. It's an ongoing dialogue, with ourselves, with our families, and those around us.
Yep. Well, I think as we get close to the end of our time thinking about just need to, I suppose we just need to wrap up and take it on out.
Let's actually say we are doing it instead of just, because we just, the implication was that there was something blocking us. Of course, our multiple ideas, I suppose, could be blocking us from ending it, but we can just end it.
Our
And
excitement for the topic may get in the way, but so yeah, so with that, today's topic was I just need to, and you can take us out, Amy.
I'm Amy with Creative Catapult Coaching.
And Megan with Focus Like a Mother and Change HP.
And this is the Ctl Alt Think podcast, conversations with neurodivergent minds, or Amy and Megan rambling about whatever we're philosophically intrigued by today.
All right, bye.